What if I told you the human origin story has 12 names, but it collapses into 7 hybrid races? And if you don't separate the names from phrases, it gets confusing fast. So in this video, I'm going to do two things. First, I'll show you the human template, how Homo sapiens were created. Second, I'll show you the 7 hybrid races step by step. And by the end, you'll see why this isn't just about where we came from. It's about what the Earth is becoming. First, here are the 12 names you need to recognize. Anu, Vikwadesch, Adama, Eva, Mazani, Sasani, Shaya, Yaya, Lina, Ananika, Anuhat. Now, important. Not all 12 are separate hybrid races. For example, Adama and Eva are part of the same hybridization step. Eva is the upgrade of the Adama template. Homo sapiens is the product of natural evolution and DNA alteration. Evolution happened up to a point millions of years ago where there's a natural hominid species, which is what many refer to as a Sasquatch. Then, extraterrestrial forms, the Anu, who are called the Anunnaki by some, altered the DNA of that natural species. They infused their genetic material into the naturally evolved species on Earth, and one of those species was the Homo erectus. In the ancient tongue, Vikwadesch is the name of the early hominin form we call Homo erectus. Vikwa means seed, Desh means template. So Vikwadesch means the seed template used to create Homo sapiens. Adama represents the early male form. Eva, or Eve, represents the first hybridization upgrade of the human form, symbolizing the completion of the modern male and female human expressions. There were female forms in the early hominin Homo erectus, but Eva was different. The Anu used the initial template of Adama to make sure Eva would be a hybridization upgrade. And once the human form existed the way we recognize it now, the human race began to flourish, replicate, and spread. Now here's where everything escalates. In a parallel Earth reality, that Earth was destroyed, and the humans on the world became mutated into the form now known as the Greys. And because they had mutated and hybridized themselves to survive on that destroyed version of Earth, they were no longer able to reproduce. They knew they would die out if they didn't find a viable source of still existing human DNA. So they used advanced technology to tunnel into various parallel versions of Earth, including ours, to find viable human DNA to infuse themselves with, to create hybrid civilizations so their culture would continue and not die out. The story theme of the Greys returning to their planet is reflected in the show The 100 on Netflix, a human race trying to return to their planet after it was destroyed by nuclear war. And the story of the Greys coming to Earth is similar to the story told in the Stranger Things show. You see a lot of these themes coming up as soft disclosure. Another example is the video game and now show series Fallout on Amazon. There's a reason these stories are so popular. They resonate with an internal truth most people aren't aware of. Now I'm going to lay out the 7 phases in order. 7 phases, 1 purpose. Since the Greys changed themselves into something else, they're considered the first hybrid race. The Greys in the ancient tongue are the Maze. The Maze came to Earth and began the hybridization agenda. The next hybridization phase is the Mazani, what many encounters describe as the tall Greys. They incorporated human DNA and moved closer to a form that could continue their species, but it wasn't sufficient for many reasons. After that came the third hybrid race, the Sasani. They represent a 50-50 balance between the Greys, the Maze, and the humans of our world and other worlds like it. They're physically and representationally halfway between the Greys and Homo sapiens. The Shaya are more human in appearance, but still clearly hybrid. They have larger eyes, slender forms, and they act as guides for the next phase. The Yaya are much more human-like. That's why they're intended to be the first hybrid race to have open contact with our civilization. Again, so the phase 4 Shaya guide and organize that climatization process. What follows is a Lina, known as the first ones. These are the hybrid children living on ships who will eventually return to Earth and begin the blending process. This phase is also called Ananika. The ancient word for Earth is Enani, meaning the ancestors and the place of the ancient mothers. Over time, this became Ananika, meaning the ancestor spirits. Here, spirit also means essence, referring to DNA. This is the phase where Earth blends itself and evolves into the 6th hybrid race. There will ultimately be a 7th hybrid race formed from the blending of all 6, a new type of being, a very different way of existing in physical reality, a being that exhibits traits of spirit and other dimensions, an expression of power, passion, and peace that will explore and unify many star systems and many galaxies over time. Earth is forming the last foundational component for the 7th hybrid race, referred to as Het, or Anuhet. This is the conclusion of the cycle. The grand cycle began by the Anunnaki and completed by the Anuhet, and this is the real transformation taking place on our planet, an upgrade, an ascension into new forms, new expressions of creativity, unconditional love, and balance. This is the beginning of the new cycle with the Anuhet, a new form of the Anunnaki, a new purpose, a broader and more expanded creation.